Thank you, Cathaoirleach, and firstly, I want to thank you for organising this meeting on this particular topic. And I suppose we need to stay and concentrate here. What we are talking about is the nitrates review. That's our primary function and primary focus here today. I suppose really, first I want to say I think all of the farm organisations have really pitched well, and I think they've made a very, very good case. And it goes back, I think, to what I think John Enright said earlier on. It's about this economic sustainability and environmental sustainability. And I believe both can go hand in hand. And that's where the political message has to be got. Because somehow in all of this, we've lost sight or the equilibrium between the two, between environmental sustainability and economic sustainability, don't seem to be balanced off. And I suppose that's partly to do with the view of the current government and their priorities. And it is, after all, a tripartite coalition government. We sometimes forget that. And so there's give and take amongst them. I'm not party to any of them. I'm an independent senator. But I think that's an important point to make. And I suppose the reality is, if farming is not sustainable, it won't exist. I mean, that is the reality of it. And I think you've got to continue as representative bodies in agriculture, representing small, medium and large farmers. You need to keep pushing that, because somehow that seems to be getting lost, or certainly dropping down the ladder in terms of priority. And of course we have to have sustainability. And of course we have to have good, clean water for everybody. And I like that heading that the IFA came with here today, is that nitrates review must improve water quality and at the same time not placing excessive costs on farmers. And again, what Mackwell talked about, it is the ambition of young farmers to be drivers of environmental good practice. And that too is true and good. And I think that we need to keep saying that. As farm organisations, I'd ask you to keep saying it, because that narrative is somehow getting lost. And I think that's important. But I think your pitches here are really good. They're reasonable, they're fair, and I think that's important. I'd just like to draw 2 or 3 points out of the statements that were submitted to the committee. And I start with the IFA. And I thought what was very interesting, you mentioned the chemical fertiliser register, as does the ICMSA actually. The message I'm picking out of that is that it has to be practical and it has to be simple. I'd like to hear what your views are. But generally, in the responses here today, people seem to be supportive of the register, the chemical fertiliser register I'm referring to, and I think that's an important comment. More importantly, we talked about compliance and the importance of that, and the IFA again suggesting that the department needs to improve communication with farmers in terms of compliance and non-compliance. And then the IFA goes on to suggest a yellow card system for minor non-compliance offences. I think that's a good idea. I'd like to hear from the president of the IFA more about that, what his thinking about that is, because I think it's a practical one. It's, again, a simple one. It's one that we all understand. And I think that's the key message in it. We have to have compliance and we have to have good water quality, but you might touch on that. And again, that's the same question to the ICMSA. Again, I have to say I'm very impressed with Mackwell's submission. And again, it touches on this thing, again, that the talk about the future farmers, because they too will have to carry the can way into the future. But again, it is that issue about environmental sustainability versus economic sustainability. And I think you really got that message over loud and clear. And therefore, we have to look at how are we going to sustain environmental practices? What more support do farmers need from the Department of Agriculture in terms of helping the balance so that economic sustainable farms continue to be maintained, but they're environmental too? And I think I'd like to hear really the solutions to that, more suggestions of what you would like as organisations to see. And finally, in relation to the Natura and hill farmers, I have constantly championed the idea of cattle grazing all year round. I've quoted people in Kildare, Tipperary, Galway, indeed even Kerry, where they can themselves successfully maintain small herds of cattle out on the land all year round. using ring feeders, dare I say it, maybe not in compliance with the department, but successfully having a sustainable agricultural enterprise with an off-farm income as well, because it couldn't sustain it all. And again, I think this is an important aspect to it. And I'm particularly interested in hearing more, if not today, but the committee, and I certainly would like to go out and visit one of the farms in relation to conservation grazing, the importance of the conservation grazing, that was really touched on, and also the exclusion of commonage from the scheme. I think there's really important aspects around the conservation grazing and rotation that we haven't discussed enough. And I think it's something that we should continue to talk about and lead the organised farm walks and encourage people to look at these alternatives. So they're just some points, some questions. And again, well done for your presentations today.
Mr. Conan.
Yeah, thank you, Senator Boylan. And I think your first comments there are actually where we all need to be here. If farming is not sustainable, well, we want viable there as well. Sustainable from an environmental, a social, and in economic, obviously. You know what I mean? If it's not economical, well, then it won't happen. And I think, as we all know, I think this is very important here today. What we're doing here is sustaining an indigenous industry that has supported the country for many generations, and in particular we've seen it more than ever in the last year and a half through the pandemic. We were right up there with the first responders. We were producing good, wholesome food, and we all need to remember that. And I don't want to stray away from nitrates here, but I just want to make the point: if we don't produce this good, wholesome food here, world population is increasing, well, then it will be produced in a less environmental manner in another country. But you speak there about the impact on water quality and costs associated with that, and this is my point. And a number of the proposed measures here, like shortening the time that farmers can get out with their valuable resource of organic fertiliser, is only going to add more cost and for no gain at all. And if we look at it with the low emission slurry spreading, which all irrigation farmers are adhering to as we speak already, that is making an impact. It is getting better uptake in the grass of the nitrogen in the organic fertiliser, better utilisation. So that is, we are doing that already, and that goes back to our point earlier, that if it becomes legislation for other farmers outside of irrigation to have this equipment, well, then it's going to impact on cost again, because there has to be grant aid for this. There's no point in saying anything else. And with the fertiliser register, like, this is a complete game changer here, because what we have, a lot of farmers are business people, and they will look at the start of the year. They may want to buy their fertiliser for the entire year. So look, there's a lot of, again, negotiation and around all of this. If we're going down this road, we have to ensure it will not impact on how farmers conduct their businesses going forward, and around compliance. And absolutely, we want to get to a situation, and this is something we've been after for years. So we've had a review of the appeals office to date. I know the minister is bringing legislation around that, and the sooner that happens, the better, so that we have an independent person in there and farmer representation there as well. And absolutely, what we are looking for is a type of yellow card system, so that inspectors will work with farmers, the carrot more than the stick. I think that's the way we need to go here. And you're absolutely right. What we're doing now, and we're ensuring this, that it won't impact on farmers of the future. And John Keane is here, and it is absolutely, there's a duty on us all as farm leaders to ensure we create an environment that will encourage young people into the sector as well. And I just want to say on excretion rates, and this is something, again, will impact on the viability of farms. And if we are moving in that direction, that it is brought in over a long period of time, because changing how a farmer produces milk. So I mean, you can't just turn off a switch or turn on a switch and change this overnight. So again, that needs to be over a protracted period of time. And another area that does affect the viability of farms is this notion of 140 kilos of above 140 kilos that you can't outwinter cattle, below 140 kilos that you can't outwinter cattle. I mean, this is wrong. I mean, this has been done for years and years, and that's an area that we have to look at. And Chairman, our expert on environmental matters, Geraldine O'Sullivan, she's our executive around this area. If you don't mind, so I would like if she could come in there just for a moment to refer to Senator Boylan there, and maybe she has a few other issues she might like to raise as well, if you don't mind.
Thanks, President. Yeah, look, I suppose I think the President has covered it very well there. You know, two of the measures here in relation to the soiled water storage and the covering of slurry tanks have the highest potential cost. And yet the justification on a science base for those is not there. So we have to be very careful that we're not, these measures are being used maybe for compliance and also for climatise and driving those agendas. So again, I'd like to reiterate that, we do need to focus on water quality and protecting water quality and looking at the cost benefit of the proposals that are there. And that is key to this. Within the agricultural catchments programme, it's shown that the programs like ASAP that work with farmers collaboratively have the best impact on water quality. So we need to be focusing and expanding on that rather than regulations where the impact on water quality is yet to be proven. So we need to sit down. I think for me, from this morning, it's very evident that there needs to be further discussion with the department, with everybody on these proposals and greater clarity provided. So there's opportunity for everyone here, to discuss and to go through the points that are set out. I'd also like, in relation to compliance, the last nitrates action programme, there was 4 amendments, legislative amendments over the period. In 2020, there was 3 legislative changes, 3 new statutory instruments. So there's been a lot of changes. We need to ensure that the next programme, that it's in place for the 4 years, because these changes, it's very hard to keep up with and it is causing compliance issues. So we need to know that the programme that's being negotiated at present is in place for the next 4 years, and that we work on communication and better communication with farmers and better education of farmers and continue to work with farmers to deliver, because that will achieve the objectives here rather than introducing measures that are hugely cost prohibitive but haven't been proven to protect or improve water quality.